I just made this workflow that generates me carousel posts, so that I don't have to generate all this different image content to share my ideas with you. So I'm just gonna go to that carousel post and just run through it. So basically, infographics aren't merely, decorations. They're powerful tools that blend design, data, and storytelling to captivate your audience. I mean, think about if you're scrolling through like Instagram or something and you see something like this with my name. That could have been my handle, and it has like these visual elements that really like attract your eye, and the fact that it's square, which is like the perfect kind of content for Instagram, makes it pop like that much more. So if you see this, you won't filter it for like ad content or anything. You'll just start reading it, and then boom, you'll be hooked, because the next slide goes, did you know infographics can boost readership by 30 times compared to text? So the idea is effectively, if you put like, you can write text content. Like, I'm pretty sure text content is very powerful, especially when used in the right ways. Like, there's so much text content out there. um, I used to write on X like a lot, and I kind of got an appreciation for text content because I started as a writer. Like, I was a writer before I was a someone who like did content automation. Like, my step into content was through writing, so I have an appreciation for words. But like, as you can tell, that depending on how you put words on a screen, they can appeal to they, like, if you have a visual behind the words, it just becomes that much more impressive. So yeah, if you unlock the magic of visuals, you can engage your audience without trying too hard. You might notice that this is being hosted on an Airtable. So I'll run you through how the automation works like very very soon. But let's just go to the next slide. So confusing infographics can lead to lost opportunities. So you have to ensure that there's clarity and coherence to keep your audience engaged and informed. And this is probably the most important thing, right? Like, depending on your target audience, you are going to have to structure your language to like appeal to them. So if you're talking to a certain group of people in a certain niche or a certain industry, then you're going to put those types of like keywords in your content. And if you're someone like me who's doing content automation, who is like, you're going to prompt the agent or the model to do that for you. So either to make it simple when you're talking to like anyone, or like any, or to put like casual language when you're talking to like teenagers, or to put like, those types of like industry words like lead generation and so on and so forth when you're talking to business professionals. Depending on who you're talking to, the language that you use is very important. um, you might be wondering who I'm talking to. I'm probably talking to other people who are interested in automation and content, and that's just because that's just how good the YouTube algorithm is. Like, it knew you wanted to see this type of information, and that's why it's bringing it to you. Let's move on. So, is your infographic falling flat? A compelling title, clear sections, and a strong call to action are essential for impact. Um, I think I've seen it before, like a lot of times, how sometimes, because like what is basically happening is when someone's scrolling through social media, the number one intent is to just entertain themselves. They're not looking for products, they're not looking to be sold on anything. When you tell them what to do, because like normally they're in this, I guess you could call it like a fugue state where they're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So your number one thing that your infographic has to do is just capture their content and then keep it. And then the next thing you need to do, right, after they engage, after they like maybe put down a comment or they engage in some other way, you have to tell them what to do next to either see your content more, so to like drop a follow or whatever, or to, you know, click the link in the description, which is something that most people do. And then you can just start funneling them to, I don't know, a newsletter or a school community where you can continue pumping your ideas through your head, through their heads, and then, you know, facilitate a sale, if not in the present, then in the future. So yeah, a clear call to action, because like normally people just don't know what to do. And as I said before, this content was generated by AI. So what I did was I wrote a Substack article, and then that Substack article has been transformed into this infographic. And I told you that I would go through it later on. That's exactly what's going to happen next. I'm just going to look at a few more. So poorly designed visuals can frustrate your audience, make your data not just understandable but unforgettable with effective design. And this is crucial, because the idea is that the way you structure your data on a page has to be coherent. Because understand, people read from left to right, so whatever is in the top left is going to stand out the most, which is why I could have put a handle up there, right? That handle would have stuck in their minds and they would have known, oh, this is like an Instagram handle or an X handle or something. um, the text here is also very important, like the way it pops out from the background is very important. That's why I made it have this shadow in the background. And you might be wondering how I was able to do this. I did this with Placid. I was able to design a template with Placid, and then I dynamically edited it with this text overlay on top. So I did that through automation. Let's go through the automation now just to see what's actually happening. So this is just a normal thing, like it's a normal activation, right? Just a manual activation. I think I just zoomed in like way too much somehow. Okay, there we go. So this is just a manual, like a manual node, like a manual execution node. So I can just test the workflow from here. And I was doing this because I just created this in maybe an hour, just to like demonstrate that I can do this, because I've been busy the whole day, right, fulfilling for clients. Okay, doesn't matter. What matters is that this actually works. So here it checks if, so it gets the article content, so the Substack article that is being transformed, which is over here, right? It's just, I have a whole stack of Substack articles, and you might notice that this is the only one with the associated carousel because I literally just created this workflow like right now. But there's also the latest one that just got posted. So yeah, if it exists, then it just gets dragged into the workflow. If it doesn't, then it creates the insightful content, which is just 10 different, like insightful, the most insightful points from the Substack article, reworded in certain ways. So let's check out what that is, or what that looks like, I guess. So here we have the system prompt, which is basically just saying you are insightful, creative, and engaging AI that specializes in repurposing long form content into concise, impactful pieces. And then the rest is just fluff, but like you get it. Yeah, your goal is to read a provided Substack article and extract 10 short paragraphs of content that are highly insightful, attention grabbing, and so on and so forth. So like any of those 10 image posts could be like a hook that I post on any day, or they could be like a whole carousel that I put together, which is really, really powerful when you think about it. So here's the next point. It's the user prompt, which is basically telling the system what it's supposed to do. So it's like, take this Substack article and turn it into 10 short standalone pieces of engaging content that can be put on images. So it takes the title and the content, which is from the Airtable, from here. So you might be wondering what's happening here. This is another workflow that I'm using to change my Substacks into copy for Exit LinkedIn and then promote it on there. This is bringing in a ton of traffic for my Substack. Like what I'm trying to say is I'm getting double the traffic that I should be getting right now, because I'm new to Substack, as you can tell. I write on a daily basis, and there's like 30 of these because like I've been writing for approximately a month. But I'm getting like a ton of views, which is abnormal, but that's just what you get when you do automation. So yeah, I give it the content it's supposed to transform, and then I give it the rules, which is basically like you're provided with a Substack article, you condense each one to a paragraph of 1 to 2 sentences. You ensure that the paragraphs are self-contained, right? This is important. If you're not posting as a carousel, you're just posting as multiple images. Keep the language impactful, keep it cool. Craft the paragraphs to spark curiosity, provide solutions, inspire thought, use language that is bold, emotional, spark curiosity. This is probably the most important one, I feel. Give me the content that I want, separated by new lines in between, right? This, because sometimes the AI, it does these things where it just says, okay, here is the output, and then it just gives you the output. We don't want that. Like, we want just the content, nothing else. So it's very important to like specify that. And then afterwards, I gave it some example outputs that I was expecting. So it's like, are you spending hours on repetitive tasks every week? It's time to reclaim your schedule and your sanity with AI-powered automation. Like, it's just simple outputs, 1 to 2 sentences long, so that it understands like how this thing actually looks. So this was actually the only reason it didn't run this time was because it had ran like already previously while I was testing the workflow before. So I added this like retroactively just to make sure that things don't break. Um, so this is very useful. I can still like add on top of this to make it more robust by adding more checks and so on and so forth. But yeah, let's move on. So this is an edit fields node, which is basically just creating the sort of the holding, I guess you could say, a variable for the image URLs that we're going to be using to put the images back in the carousel table. So before then it would have already like had created the carousel content, so because there's a carousel table that is linked to the substacks, and this carousel table is going to take in this new content, and it's going to also link to the associated substack article. And then it's like that's very useful so that we know which substack article already has carousel content associated to it. So these two are effectively just doing the same thing. They're just getting the carousel content that already exists, or they're passing it along through the workflow. So the next thing that happens, as I said, is this edit fields node is basically just defining the image URLs. And then this next node is a code node. What it does is it takes this carousel content and then it splits it. It just splits it so that we can work with it, because we told the model to generate 10 paragraphs. So now we're splitting those paragraphs into 10 items. As you can tell here, this goes from being one item to being 10 items when we split them out, because it was an array here. It's an array, and then here it's just 10 strings. And then here's the loop, so it loops through, and we're going to go through the loop one at a time. So when dealing with HTTP requests in Aden, something I've noticed is that when you try to dynamically change variables while sending a payload, things tend to break. So what you do is you just define the payload before using a code node, and then you send that through as a raw element in your body. So yeah, this is the content that we're sending in. It's literally what comes in. This is the template that we're using. This is a template from Placid. And then the quote is effectively that piece of content. So it's part of the text element, just a very simple payload. There's not much that we're changing, as you can tell. But here, if you're wondering about the HTTP request, it's effectively we're doing a post request to the Placid API. It's for image generation. And as you can, I'm not going to go through the header auth and like everything. I feel like for Placid it's very simple. They give you an API key once you just make an account. You might not be able to like use the API key until you get a subscription, but the subscription is also relatively cheap. I would say like $20, and it gives you a ton of images to play around with, like 500 credits. That's 500 images. And Placid is also like, it's not just for image generation. You can also generate PDFs and videos too. So it's a very powerful platform, like all things considered. So as I was saying before, sometimes if you try to if you were to try to drag in the content, say, and you were to like put it in here, it might break. So it's better to just use a raw body content type as an application JSON, and then just drag in the payload from the previous code node. And then this is where the magic happens. So we wait for after sending this post request, we wait for a few seconds, and then we check its status. I set the seconds to be 5 seconds because why not? It's just an image generation. Like, it's not supposed to take too much time, but it ends up taking approximately 10 to 15 seconds per image. So for that sequence of 10 images, it was about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, which is fine. Like you're saving yourself tons of time. Think about if you were to make this in Canva, like you'd at least spend 30 minutes. So this is fine. So yeah, this polling URL, by the way, we got it from the previous no, the HTTP request. Oh, I guess the wait node is inheriting it from the HTTP request. The only reason we're not seeing those items is because this is now looping, because what we're doing is we're essentially waiting for a certain period of time, and then we're getting the status. And then if the status is like finished, which you'll see in the next node, which is the if node, we want the status to be finished before we move on. So if it's not finished, it will keep just looping around trying to get the status to be finished. And then once it is finished, then we'll do something to the resulting image URL that we got. So this is the S3. So S3 is effectively just a cloud container, I guess. I think it's from Amazon Web Services, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it is Amazon Web Services. And it's basically just holding the image in the cloud. We can download it like this. This is the URL that we can use to just download the image from anywhere. Like if anyone has this URL, they can download the image. So yeah, we are effectively just putting the image in an object and then sending it away, which, as you can see, this is the output. So the next thing that happens is that happens like 10 times for every piece of content or for every paragraph. And then it comes out here. So these are the 10 items that come out. And then here what we're doing is we're aggregating all those objects into an array. So now those 10 objects become one item. And then we play with it again. So the thing with Airtable is that if you want to put in any object, any attachment, you have to format it correctly. So you have to format it in terms of the URL. So the key, or I guess the name of the variable, it has to be named URL, and then that is going to be the variable that's holding the URL, the actual URL that you're pointing to the image. So we're effectively telling, this code is just creating another object with an array of objects that are holding URLs. So it's like, that's basically it with the key of URL. That's it. It sounds like a mouthful, but it makes total sense, and this is necessary because of how Airtable wants you to give it URLs. Like, it will not accept URLs if you don't make sure to do things like this. So yeah, we're mapping every image URL we get to get it to look like this, basically. And then the next thing we do is we update that carousel object, that carousel, I guess you could call it an instance, or just based on the ID that we got from the previous, because whatever, okay, every Substack article has an attached carousel with an ID. We're dragging in that ID over here, and then we're putting in those images over here. And you might notice something here, which is that every image has an ID now, and every image also has a file name. We could have specified that file name, right, if we wanted, but there was no need to do something like that because it's just a bunch of carousel images. We could dynamically do something like this, which is like pretty cool. So we could dynamically create a file name, which is pretty cool. Like, there's a lot of things you can do, but just for this instance I chose not to because it was very simple, and I still managed to generate a very good sort of set of content that I could literally just post today, and I feel like this will totally stand out in a sea of text that is Instagram or X, and it'll give me the competitive edge to make complex ideas easily digestible and more memorable. And I hope you remember this for a long time, and I hope you're able to digest this. I'm going to give you this workflow like for free in the description. You don't even need to do it's pretty simple, and I feel like anyone can just set it up in an hour, just like I did. Actually, even less, since you already have the fully working workflow. All you need to change is the template that you're working on for Placid, and then you'll just need to update your own credentials for Airtable and so on and so forth, and Placid, and OpenAI. But other than that, it is very simple to set up. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you are looking to implement growth strategies using leveraging AI and automation in your business, then you can feel free to contact me with the link you'll find in the description. I'd love to talk to you. Until next time, I'll see you. Bye.